He wasn't just a sailor with a crazy idea. He was a master salesman who convinced a king and queen to bet on him, even when everyone else said no. How did a nobody from Genoa talk Spain into funding a voyage that sounded like a pipe dream? What did it take to win over royalty? Stick around, because this story of persistence, charm, and a little bit of bluffing is wilder than you think. It's the late 1480s, and Christopher Columbus is on a mission. He's got a bold plan to sail west to reach Asia, but he needs money, lots of it, for ships, crew, and supplies. This video explores how Columbus, a man with no wealth or noble title, persuaded Spain's King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella to support his risky voyage. We're diving into the years of rejection, the clever arguments, and the moment that changed history forever. The big problem? Columbus is an outsider pitching an idea that sounds insane. Most experts think the world's too big to sail west to Asia, and Columbus has no cash or clout to make it happen. He's up against skeptical scholars, tight-fisted royals, and a clock that's ticking. Spain's busy with its problems. So how does he pull it off? Let's break it down and see how a weaver's son turned his dream into reality. Picture Columbus in 1485. He's in his 30s, weathered from years at sea, and he's been pitching his idea for nearly a decade. He's already tried Portugal, the exploration capital of the world. Their king, John II, listened to Columbus's plan: sail west across the Atlantic to reach Asia's riches, gold, spices, silk, in just a few weeks. Columbus says the Earth's smaller than people think, maybe 18,000 miles around, not 25,000. But Portugal's experts? They laugh him out of the room. They say the ocean's too wide, his math's wrong, and he's got no proof. Columbus doesn't give up. He packs up and heads to Spain. Spain's a different beast. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella are busy fighting a war against Granada, the last Muslim stronghold in Spain. They're not exactly looking to fund a random sailor's dream trip. Columbus shows up in Cordoba, where the royal court is, with nothing but his maps, his books, and a ton of confidence. He's got no money, no noble rank, just a big idea and a bigger personality. His first step is getting in the door, and that's harder than it sounds. Columbus starts by networking. He's not a nobody anymore. He's married into a Portuguese noble family, which gives him a bit of credibility. He meets priests, merchants, and minor nobles who can get him close to the royals. One key ally is a monk named Antonio de Marchena, who's into astronomy and geography. Marchena likes Columbus's passion and helps him get a meeting with the Spanish court. But here's the catch. Spain's got bigger priorities. The war with Granada is draining their treasury, and they're not thrilled about risking money on a guy who sounds like he's making it up. Columbus's pitch is bold. He stands before a group of scholars and nobles, unrolling maps and quoting old texts like Ptolemy and Marco Polo. He says Asia's just 3,000 miles west, way closer than the 6,000 miles most experts estimate. He talks about gold, spices, and spreading Christianity to new lands. He's not just selling a voyage, he's selling a vision of wealth and glory for Spain. But the scholars aren't buying it. They grill him on his math, pointing out that his numbers don't add up. The Earth's too big, they say. You'll run out of food and water long before you hit Asia. Here's where Columbus shines. He doesn't back down, even when he's wrong. He's got this mix of charm, stubbornness, and showmanship. He leans hard on his sailing experience, trips to Africa, surviving shipwrecks, reading the stars. He tells stories about sailors spotting land west of the Azores, hinting that Asia's closer than anyone thinks. He even brings up Toscanelli, an Italian scholar who backed the idea of sailing west. Columbus knows his evidence is shaky, but he sells it with total conviction. He's like a modern-day entrepreneur pitching a startup to investors, except his startup is a fleet of ships, and his investors are a king and queen. Let's talk about what Columbus is asking for. It's not just money for ships and crew. He wants big rewards, the title of Admiral of the Ocean Sea, a cut of any riches he finds, and governorship over any lands he discovers. That's a massive ask for a guy with no track record. The Spanish court thinks he's out of his mind, and they're not wrong to be skeptical. But Columbus knows how to play the game. He ties his voyage to Spain's goals, beating Portugal in the race for trade routes, spreading Christianity, and getting rich. He's betting that Spain's ambition will outweigh their doubts. The first meeting doesn't go well. In 1486, a royal committee of experts reviews Columbus's plan and shuts it down. They say the distance is too great, the risks are too high, and his calculations are nonsense. Columbus is crushed, but keeps pushing. He spends years, yes, years, hanging around the Spanish court, following Ferdinand and Isabella from city to city. He's broke, living off the kindness of supporters like monks and minor nobles. Most people would quit, but Columbus is relentless. He keeps refining his pitch, gathering more maps and working every connection he's got. Here's a key moment. Columbus gets help from unexpected allies. One is Luis de Santangel, a royal treasurer who sees the potential in Columbus's plan. Santangel's a businessman. He knows Spain needs new trade routes to compete with Portugal. Another ally is Queen Isabella herself. She's intrigued by Columbus's religious angle. He talks about converting heathens in Asia and funding a crusade to retake Jerusalem. Isabella, who's deeply spiritual, likes the sound of that. Plus, Columbus's promise of gold and spices is tempting, especially with Spain's war almost over. By 1491, Columbus was at his breaking point. He's been pitching for 6 years, and Spain's still saying no. He threatens to take his idea to France, a rival of Spain. That's a bold move. It's like calling their bluff. The royals don't want to lose a potential win to another country, but they're still hesitant. The war with Granada is winding down, and Spain's starting to think about exploration. Columbus gets one last shot to make his case. The climax comes in early 1492 in the city of Santa Fe. Granada has just fallen, and Spain is feeling victorious. Columbus meets with Ferdinand and Isabella again, laying out his plan with all the passion he's got. He shows his maps, quotes his books, and paints a picture of Asia's riches waiting just across the ocean. Santangel steps in, offering to loan money to cover part of the costs. Isabella, swayed by the promise of glory and faith, finally says yes. On April 17, 1492, they signed the Capitulations of Santa Fe, a contract giving Columbus his ships, his titles, and a shot at history. It's a gamble for everyone, but Columbus's persistence pays off. So, how did Columbus convince Spain? It wasn't just one meeting or one argument. It was years of grinding, networking, and refusing to take no for an answer. He used his sailing experience, shaky math skills, and big promises to sell a dream. He played on Spain's greed, faith, and rivalry with Portugal. Was he a genius or just lucky? That's the question that keeps his story alive. Columbus's victory in Spain shows what it takes to turn a wild idea into reality. He wasn't rich or powerful, but he had grit, a good pitch, and perfect timing. His success set the stage for the voyage that changed the world. But what happened when he finally set sail? That's coming up in the following video. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my video with others.